We all make purchases, we all most likely have pre-orders, and we as collectors often have a steady stream of new options coming into the collection, sometimes on a weekly basis. So, before you throw down that next non-refundable deposit, stop. Ask yourself this one question. What's the point? Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be taking a look at that topic, and in the end, it could save you some money, and it will certainly save you some headache in the future. And that is getting yourself to answer that one question. What is the point to your next big toy purchase? Intriguing stuff, if I do say so myself, but before we get into any of that, as always, if you like this type of educational, thought-provoking, big-picture, 6-scale content, and you're not yet subscribed, then please make sure that you hit that subscribe button. It's actually my goal and a topic of another video coming up in the future, and that's this. I don't want to influence you, but rather educate you when it comes to some of these topics. And don't get it twisted, and don't worry, I'm not talking down to you, or at you for that matter. No, in preparation for these videos, I actually learn a lot and do a lot of introspection myself, so we're all peers here, learning, gleaning from each other. So give me a presumptive like on this video, as well as checking me out on all the other social platforms that are listed below. I would certainly appreciate it if you did. But let's get to the main course for today. As I mentioned just a moment ago, when I'm thinking through topics to discuss on this channel, as I said, I often do some introspection. And when I was hauling some boxes back to my storage unit, where I was making a video for Instagram and TikTok, I ended up with a startling revelation. What am I doing? What's the point of all this? Am I filling an emotional hole? Am I simply just getting something to make more content with? Or are these pieces that I actually want? Do I have an emotional attachment to some of them? And am I getting the proper representation of my favorite movie moments from film and TV? Or is it a little bit of all the above? Someone actually commented on that reel when it showed the storage unit and all the boxes, and they said, "Are you actually paying for this unit? And how long are you planning to pay for that monthly? Because eventually, you'll end up having paid more than the money that you would make by keeping the boxes if and when you had to sell them." Whoa, talk about a gut punch. Now, I like to think that my subscribers and followers on all these social platforms mirror my real life and are very similar to myself. After all, you gravitate towards the things that you have in common, right? That's the way society and civilization has always worked. Like-minded people stick around like-minded people, and the people that you do not have commonalities with, you separate from. So, if I'm asking myself, what's the point on some of these things, then I would wager that some, if not all of you, at some point have had to ask that question, or at least should ask that question when it comes to your collecting. With that being said, I want to take a look at 5 questions that you're going to need to ask yourself before your next Hot Toys purchase, or 6-scale purchase, or any purchase for that matter, to ultimately answer the question posed at the beginning of this video: what's the point? The first question that we need to be asking ourselves is this, and I know it sounds a little bit loaded, but here it goes. Why am I buying this? Or rather, who am I buying this for? Now, that's a lot to unpack in that simple question, but I do want to start with who. If you're buying anything, unless it's a gift obviously, for anyone other than yourself, you are buying it for the wrong reasons. I know that sounds extremely rudimentary or basic, but we have conditioned ourselves as a society to do things for the approval of fake social media points of others. We're so quick to throw around the term influencer, and honestly, I have no idea what qualifies someone to achieve that title. I run a small YouTube channel here, as you see. I stream for a couple hours on Fridays, and I have a few thousand Instagram followers. And while some of those numbers may seem impressive to others, I do not consider myself to be an influencer in any shape, form whatsoever. But there are certainly channels and other companies that do target you and attempt to, yes, influence you to buy their product or buy from their stores or preferred retailers. I get it. They need to make money and they got to do what they got to do. But me, I'll give you my opinion on figures from time to time, but I will never tell you to go out and get something or where to get it. I will tell you, however, where not to go. And if you have questions on what I mean by that, please hit me up on the side. But I digress. Influencers should not be making any decisions on your next purchase for you. Facebook groups and maybe even social media friends should not be the reason that you buy anything. I feel like we hopefully have grown out of that since grade school, since we were doing show and tell, but as I said, I don't want to think I'm talking down to anybody out there or at them, because I have been guilty of this myself. I certainly have bought things not because I wanted it, but because I wanted other people to see my photos of it and post it on Instagram. Perhaps I got something simply for the fact of being able to make a reel or a TikTok with it. Shameful, I know, but it's reality, and I personally need to focus on buying things for me because I want it. If no one else in the entire world knew that you had a certain piece, would you still buy it? Only you can answer that question, and hopefully you make the right choice. But after you have answered that, the first question of why and who you are actually buying this for, then you can head on to the second question, and that's this. Is this FOMO or a genuine want? If you honestly answered the first question properly, that really does eliminate a lot of the fear of missing out. But still, there are some pieces that you waver on, and you weigh whether or not they need to be in your collection or not. And this is normal, but what we also need to normalize is transitioning out of being afraid that you're going to miss something and really drilling down into if it is a genuine want. What makes you afraid that you are going to miss it? Is it because someone else will have one and you won't? That's a bad reason. Is it because it's a numbered exclusive and you really do want it in your collection? That's a better reason. Is this the definitive version of a character and maybe coming around only once and you need to have that representation in your collection? That's probably the best reason of the three. The reasons that represent why something is a genuine want will vary from person to person and also in instance to instance, but what needs to remain a constant across the board for everyone is not buying something simply because someone else is going to have it, and you need to make sure that you do too. Because then you're not buying it for yourself, like we stated above. You're buying it for someone else. So, once you have figured that out, and you're buying it for yourself, and that is a genuine want, you can then move on to the third question, and that is this. Do I have room to display it? I've said it many times on this channel and on different streams, but these are pieces of art that deserve to be displayed. Now, the way they are displayed can vary from person to person, obviously depending on collectors' taste and their situation. My setup's changed multiple times. I think it's important that you provide the best place possible and within your means, and that your display space is as much a part of your actual collection as the figure itself. But where you are displaying them, whether it's a detolf, a bookcase, or something else entirely, it doesn't necessarily matter as much as if you can display them. If you have a collection of unopened figures in the corner, and you did not just get back from vacation, then you do not need to be buying anything until you open up other figures first, or sell them off, the ones that you don't want. If you look over in the corner and you see a bunch of laundry, that means it's time to do laundry. As a collector, if you look over in your corner and you see a bunch of unopened figures, it's time to do some introspection. How can you fully assess your situation as a collector if you don't even know what's in your collection and how all the pieces work together? The biggest issue I have is thinking a figure will fit into my display when in fact it simply doesn't, which means two things. Either I need to rearrange to make room, or I have too many and I need to move some out. I literally just did this with my Dead Strange figure, and because of how big it is and because I want to keep that one, I had to move some things around in and out of my display. All that to say is that yes, you may be buying this for yourself, and it is a genuine want, but if you don't have the room to display it properly, you need to make some decisions before you move on to buying something else. So once you've answered those three questions, you can then move on to the next one, and this is where it gets down to brass tacks. Do I have the money? Budgeting for this hobby is so important. If you have no plan, you will certainly fail and quit before you even get going. It is so easy just to throw down a deposit for a figure that is 2 years away and forget about it. But what do you do when all those figures start releasing at one time that you have on pre-order? Now, this isn't a flex, but did you know that this past month I had 6 figures shipped that I had pre-ordered in a matter of 2 weeks? Now, I can't control when figures release, but what I can control is budgeting for when they actually do. If you do not have the funds readily available to pay in full for something when you are thinking about purchasing it, do not buy it. what I would recommend is that if you are purchasing something that requires the deposit, meaning that it's not out yet and will come out in the future, make sure that you have the funds first of all. Pay the deposit, then put the remaining balance, if you don't want to pay it all at once, right now, into a separate account and keep it there for when the item is ready to ship. That way, essentially, you have paid for it and you won't be surprised when the final payment comes due. As I said, it is easy to throw down 10% on a figure that is 2 years away, but multiply that by 10 or 20 and then have them all released within a couple of weeks of each other. Yeah, that could get pretty messy if you weren't prepared. So I've shared the meme numerous times, and I stand by the fact that you should not go broke trying to look like you aren't broke to impress collectors who are broke. Wiser words have never been spoken. And finally, the last point and question to help you answer the original question of what's the point when buying these figures is this: am I overpaying? Of all the questions I've posed to us on this list, this is the one that makes me feel the most sad because I'm rather guilty of this one myself. These figures aren't cheap in the first place, but overpaying for them out of FOMO or to get things quick because I wanted instant gratification was not the right play in hindsight. At the end of the day, it is your money and no one can tell you what to do with it, but I would certainly caution you on overpaying for things when you certainly don't have to. Look, I buy enough of these figures to where I realize that having them day one for a premium price was just not worth it for me in the end. And I'm not a reviewer, I don't want to be. I don't make money on doing that, so there was really no point other than to have a dopamine hit of instant gratification. Look, multiply that by the fact that these figures don't even retain their value and actually recently have been losing their value, and that overpayment on my end looks pretty damn stupid and transparently pretty freaking selfish. I think about that extra money that I could have saved, not to buy another figure, no, but rather do something with my wife, go on another trip, go out to dinner, do something for the weeds. Whatever it may be, I look at that overpayment as a wasted opportunity. Like I said, that's just me being completely honest and vulnerable. So knowing that is my FOMO that I want to focus on, and the fear of missing out on more opportunities with my family because I truly missed the point when it came to some of my collecting habits. And I hope that from this you may learn and glean a thing or two also. Well, that's going to do it for us here today. 5 questions to ask before your next big purchase when it comes to collecting. Did that make sense? Is there something in there that can help you? Now it's your turn to take to the comments and let me know down below if this type of educational content is a help to you, and if you prefer this over being simply influenced one way or the other when it comes to some products. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel as well as giving me a big old presumptive like, or I guess a post-zumptive like after this, and follow me on all different social platforms. And if you have already checked out my collection tour that I posted at the beginning of this year, go ahead and give yourself another watch and share with somebody you know. I would certainly appreciate it. Until next time, happy collecting, and I will be seeing you in our next video.